about natives tonight. It's sort of been a rise in the last 10 years in terms of the appreciation and collection of natives. I think there's been a few stellar people in the country that have really brought the quality up. I'm sure I don't want to insult anyone by missing anyone's names, but you know, there's plenty you can find online and through different shows. But I think what's so incredible about natives is that they're unique, right? There's certain places in Spain you can find eucalypts, but generally speaking, there's a lot of different plants that you're not going to see the ones that show anywhere else in the world. So it's our way of stamping bonsai onto the global stage, and I think we're still sort of in an infancy in terms of age of a lot of the trees and quality. But every year, I think we can agree, if you go to the Bonsai Open or AABC, the quality is just getting better and better. So with that, we for the April month, we chose this month because natives grow so much through the summer, and they're just sort of, you're trimming them and they're just coming back. We figured this is the point where you've probably done the last prune and they're just slowing down before going into winter, so you've sort of got them at that perfect point. Rather than, if we did this in January or February, sort of roll the dice and it might be all shaggy and not, or halfway not ready to be presented. So this was actually Ben's idea for tonight, where who's not here, funny enough, where we were going to bring people up and they would just talk about some species that they own that you may not have seen. We wanted to keep the whole night without feeds as well, because last year we did this, I think half the table was feeds, so we figured let's try and branch out a little bit further. So you can see lots of, Chris over here has brought a whole bunch of eucalypts, which I think he called the tall timber. And then you've got things like water gums here, which is actually not a gum. You've got a number of kunzias and people will be talking about those throughout the night. But before that, I've got a couple of items. I won't be here long this time. Just some events that are coming up, which I think definitely try and make it to at least one of these. So the first one is actually an Nepean Bonsai Club show, which I actually only realised a couple of days ago that it's this weekend. So that's 18th and 19th. So go. I picked up some really good trees last year from the show, or the year before. And their show quality is really good. So definitely recommend heading out that way. There's also the Southern Highlands Garden Show, which is this weekend as well. So that's less bonsai and more lots of gardens that are open, and there's a big plant sale area at Botanical Gardens. There is one house, a gentleman called Dean Wilson, who owns a number of trees down in Robertson. He's got his house open. You can see he's got a couple of hundred bonsais that you can go and look at. I think the entrance is about $15 a person. That gives you access to everywhere. I will be going because I live down there. The AABC is coming up, obviously, so we've got Brian heading there. Is anyone else going to the AABC in Hobart this year? Maybe. Yeah. Last minute flight?
I'm in the middle of moving and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a real difficult scheduling anything.
Yeah, well, I think Tassie's really unique. Their native bonsai is pretty phenomenal, because there's a lot of species down there that just aren't on the mainland. So you've got things like, which is a personal favourite of mine, I'm talking to someone else about it. The Eucalyptus venicosa, which is the only eucalypt that has a very small leaf, so it's about the size of a pea, and it's just phenomenal. But you can't get those on the mainland unless you get them shipped over. So it's been a pet project of mine for a couple of years. So yeah, if anyone gets to go down, please make sure you take photos. Brian, if you're the only one, then that responsibility is on you. We also have Bonsai by the Harbour, which is... No, it's on the list. It's all right.
That's four bonsai.
Yeah, it is, but it's right after this one. I was just going to say, turn the best one. So we've got Bonsai by the Harbour, which is the 6th and 7th of June. So we've got Andrew Edge and Jared Bailey presenting at that. So that's $70 per session, which is very reasonable. Jared is from Hobart, and then Andrew is from, I think, around the Central Coast area, I think. Both of them very good artists. Andrew's a bit more traditional, and Jared's probably a bit more contemporary and focuses more on natives. So I think that will be a really good event. David?
Gary, I think Gary said to me that it was only going to be 1 day this year. So we might need to check that out.
I think the ad says 2.
Yeah, it does say 2.
The ad says 2.
Gary said to me at the Easter show that it was only going to be 1 day.
Okay, their website says 2 at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, when
Is that-
you
is
have to
that
contact
for this
them to
year?
book in anyway. So, yeah, it depends on their scheduling, I guess.
Yeah.
So, contact them for booking. It's not like, sign up online. You got to contact them. As Lee pointed out, the Illawarra show, which is on the 2nd and 3rd of May, which actually does fall over the same weekend as AABC. So, if you can't go to Hobart, go to Illawarra. Before we get into tonight's scheduling, which is going to be people talking about some species, I was getting Chris and anyone else who wants to talk about the RAS, which went on last week, which there were a number of people here. So we had Brian, David, Chris, John, Neville, I think you were there as well. Oh no, in terms of presenting, and you showed up. A lot of club members gave their time to it, and it's quite an investment of time. It's long days, and I think everyone should be really appreciative of their work and advertising the club. Chris, do you want to give it 5 minutes?
Yeah, we had quite a roll-up of our people, which was good. Those people you mentioned, I think also James and Marianne. If I've missed somebody, my apologies. But we did have a number of people wandering through, again from the club. It's worth having a look at. There's some really good trees were on display, and it's worth going to have a look at them. We also put on 4 talks, 4 presentations, which I think is more than anyone else did in the place. And I was most pleased that we actually had 4 different people doing the presentation. And that's good that we've got the depth where we can have 4 people go up and each give a demonstration that was pretty well received. But having the depth of 4 different people, I thought was good. The RAS is usually very appreciative of our efforts. We get out there and chase our patrons around and get them involved, and I think it's, I think we do a good show from what I've seen compared to the others who just sit behind a table and do not very much. Ty was also there with his young daughter. So my particular thanks to Brian, because Brian was there for the setup. He did a lot of work setting up the cart and whatever. He also helped me. I had some big plants. I had this fellow there, and I had the big cedar, and so he helped me move them around and get them there and get them back. And he was there for the full duration, gave one of the presentations, and was there for the return flight as well. So thanks, Brian. I think it went pretty well, and I think between the three people displayed, and I think we've got a pretty decent handful of results.
Yeah, I heard that if you saw Lisa, one of Lee's trees, she's worked on got 3rd in the competition, and were there any other?
Sorry?
Were there other prizes? I haven't seen the awards.
I got 2 first, a second and a third.
Brian
got
got 2 seconds and 2 thirds.
Congratulations. Well, if everyone put their hands together for... the schedule is very long, and they have to drop trees off quite late at night, and it's a lot of effort. So if you get to go, bring them coffee or something, and thank them for their efforts.
We got a visitor from the show. Karen,
what?
she came in.
Oh, sorry, what was your name?
Karen.
Karen, nice to meet you, Karen. Everyone, welcome, Karen. Feel free to go and visit Dad as well at the front, but now we will do that. Otherwise, that's really it from me. If there's any...
Lee got some prizes.
Yeah, sorry, you got the 3rd, and then what else? Good. Congratulations. Well done, Lee. All right, I might kick things off if that's all right, because I'll be pretty quick. what we'll do is if you are going to come up and talk about the plant, just try and keep it pretty succinct, and then there'll be a workshop afterwards. I don't think Chris is going to carry each of one of his trees, but he'll probably might talk about each one.
Before you start, is the Bonsai World trip booked?
No, so actually, sorry, that's a good point. We just didn't have the numbers to support it, so I've notified them that we're just not going to do it this year. So, which is not a bad thing because this time of year their stock's usually a little more depleted, whereas if you go in sort of springtime, which is what we might try and do, it's a bit more lush and that usually done for watering over winter and whatnot, so you can go with your supplies. But if anyone goes up to or past Bonsai World in the next month or two, definitely stock up on any soils you need because it's the cheapest place generally than everywhere else. Anyway, right, let's crack into it. First, I've only got two plants I want to talk about. First one, the reason I bought it is I actually have no idea what it is. I bought it at a native nursery up in near the Northern Beaches. What's it? Harvest Seed. You know that one? Harvest Seed native nursery. Yeah, really good nursery. Definitely recommend, and very reasonable in terms of prices. I bought this. I wrote it down somewhere, and then on my old phone, then it got smashed, and I don't know what it is. So I brought it here. So if anyone can identify it, please let me know. It's not a leopard sperm. I absolutely know that for sure. But it gets this sort of spirally, spindly branching, and it's getting, it's only 2.5 years old, I think, and it's already got some really cool rough bark. So I think I'm probably going to uppot it even more next year and just try and grow the living hell out of it. So yeah, if anyone sees this tonight and knows what it is, please let me know. The second one I want to talk about, which may look familiar, I might just grab some of this tree for a second. Brian, is this yours?
No, it's in pot.
Okay.
That's my thing.
Thank you. All right, so this is a Banksia serrata, and very obviously from the serrated edges of the leaf. Now, most Banksia serratas just grow to the sky. However, there is a nursery cultivar that is a prostrate and does not grow up. It grows out like a juniper. So this will only ever cascade and grow downwards. But I'm really struggling with this tree because my dog keeps trying to eat it as it hangs off the bench. But basically, you won't see this very often, and if anyone wants to put them in their garden, it's just like a low-lying Banksia. I'm not sure if it gets the cones or the flowers, but we will find out at some point. I just thought it was a very unique version of Banksia that you don't really see around too much. So anyway, look out for this one. It's very rare you see this at nurseries. I absolutely jumped the door when I didn't see it eventually. Who wants to be next? Yeah? Oh, no, Dave's put down first.
These are a little bit ratty, but I'm seriously running. At 6 o'clock, I was in bed asleep, and then I woke up and I thought, can I do this? So these are just a couple of things that I picked up. One's interesting, one's sort of interesting. This one here, nursery Kingsgrove was closing down, and they had a whole lot of stack of leptospermum cultivars that come from Byong native nurseries down the Highlands. I ran out of time. I was going to look up and tell you exactly what this is obviously a cultivar. Part of the reason why it's here is that I want someone who knows something about natives to have a look at it and give me some ideas on how to actually improve it up. It's interesting that I've had a couple of things come up into my garden that look exactly like this. So this one itself has really fine foliage. You look in there, it's got a really big, thick base that it's built, and it has nice bark, and also has it gets quite large single flowers, bright red, I think. I had 3. They all survive my standard treatment, which is get them in a pot, take them out of the pot, just go around that much around the outside. They're in 10-inch pots, and third off the bottom, bonsai mix back in the pot again. If they're still alive in 3 months, then you worry about them. I worried about them. I still managed to kill 2. One, to be fair, I decided to wire it. It's amazing what you can do with wire to kill the plant. It's just a really interesting form. And the other thing for me, which is attractive too, is that these guys are down in cold weather. So they don't actually produce plants. Now what they do is they produce different crosses and things like that. And then they sell them, they develop them and then sell them covered. This one here is a lot more interesting. Now, I claim complete guilt for not doing anything with this thing. I've had it sitting around, I've been neglected, I haven't really pruned it much, played around it. But what it is Bacasia tetraptera. And it's called the Mount Stewart Mystery Tree. It is found, the reason why it's called the Mount Stewart Mystery Tree is that it is only found on Mount Stewart. But I don't know if you can see, I grabbed it when I was up in Queensland because I saw it there, had a label on it, and it looked attractive. But you'll see a little bit here. It gets nice, white, fluffy flowers. The flowers change to fruit that look like that. I'll put this over there with this on it. And the other thing too, when you look at the bark, it gets really quite attractive bark, which you can see building now. They get a little bit of that almost crepe myrtle sort of effect. But largest leaves, but I think this could actually turn into something really, really interesting. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do it, but just looking at the way the tree actually looks in nature. Plus it seems to have a lot of characteristics that are good. It seems to back bud reasonably well, and it's just something interesting. You know, you're not going to find it anywhere. Well, you might find it in Harvey Bay, in Townsville, and here. But that's those two. But I'll probably, because I'm moving, I've got to get rid of stuff. Just said, I'll bring in a couple of things that I think are this, and I'll put them on the sale table. They'll probably be $5 or something like that to go to the club. But I reckon it's an interesting little thing. And this thing is hard to kill because I haven't succeeded yet. But yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lemon myrtle is a Bacasia.
No, the other one.
No, no, yeah.
No, the other one.
Oh.
The other
A
one.
bit of
No, that's the one.
No, that's not lemon myrtle.
Yeah.
No, lemon myrtle.
well, it's that's the name. It's not common. But if you can have a look at it, the time. That's the 1172. I have no idea what it is. It's a hybrid. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Maybe. As I said, I just ran out of time because I woke up at 6 and then I had to become conscious, decide whether I become to run around and grab all these things, including the big. Actually, what you need to have a look at the little things up there that I've grabbed for critters as you're wandering around. If you're interested, I'll see if I've got any others hanging around.
Don't touch them on.
You can't touch them. I was legally obliged to bring them in.
I grabbed a bunch of trees. I've got a couple of weird ones because I got a couple of hundred natives at home. But these ones are.
Maybe mention everyone how you tend to acquire
Compulsory.
I work in bush regeneration, so I used to do landscaping and I used to score a lot of trees from different gardens.
But these are the ones that got rejected.
I switched to bush regeneration and then I guess I had more local native knowledge, like so I get a few endemic species to my area, which is like endemic's like the local bioregion. And yeah, I think natives is like too broad of a term. Like we should probably focus more on the different like microclimates that we live in to sort of wrap our heads around stuff. These ones, like there's Micromurus ciliata. Have you heard of this? Is anyone? I think I sold one to Rebecca and
I was going to say, look, the leaves look familiar, but I wouldn't have known what it
maybe
was.
Noel bought one.
I think,
They got little red flowers and little red and white flowers.
what did you call it?
Micromurus.
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Well, I'm not really good with common names, so I'll just keep throwing scientific names. at you guys.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't remember it.
Yeah. Oh, they're usually called like heath myrtle or yeah, flower, fluffy heath something or
Is
whatever.
that the one you wouldn't sell me and then I convinced you in the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they like full sun. So
It's happened.
Oh, that's good for me.
yeah, and natives are pretty good. Like, because you have to imagine they've been in this climate for thousands of years, so there's no special thing you have to do. And like where I work at work is more like it's a very nutrient poor soil. It's just sand, hardly any water. So once like maybe we do a planting and we water it in for a couple of months and then we let it go, and they can get huge or they can be all straggly and not.
It depends.
But they become hardy over time. So when you run out of time, if you have like a child or something, a lot of my bonsais are very neglected or just stay in this little pot for a couple of years before I decide what to do. This one, well, these ones in particular, like have really small leaf genomes. So yeah, I bought them. I didn't need more, but I keep buying them.
What was that one? The
Micromurus ciliata.
okay.
So it's like a heathy plant.
Fringed teeth murder.
Yeah, but there's a lot of like, I guess there's a lot of ways you can take it. You can go like literati or windswept, triforest. Some of the ones at home, like I potted up into big pots, and then try not to touch them for maybe 2 to 5 years, and hopefully they get a bit bigger. Sometimes they only get like, I don't know, that little. Yeah, or yes, like I bought this one, Baronia heterophylla. Have you guys seen Baronia? It's got like a bellflower.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very pretty.
Smells good too.
Yeah, so I'll chop this bit off. So I'll probably take it like down more of the Penjin part, so I don't have to worry about picking it up. Eventually I'll keep growing that out down here.
More bends in the.
Yeah, it's a bit hard. It's going to snap at this point.
Too hard, too hard.
Yeah, I don't want to risk it.
No,
Yeah, the amount of trees I've snapped. It's Calitrix. This one's got like a little star flower. This one's really good for bonsai. It's a bit hardier. And like the Micromurus, it's a myrtle, so I guess they deal really well with like back budding. You can prune it pretty hard. Pretty hardy. I guess a lot of the small leaf plants are a lot hardier, so say if you've got myrtle rust in your area, they're not as susceptible to that sort of stuff. I've got 2 weird Kunzias here. I've got, can't remember, Kunzia parviflora. It's got a pink flower, and the leaves are minuscule, but I'm pretty sure it will just grow slower than this one. I'm not sure what I'll do. Looks Western Australia Kunzia, which I've just neglected for 2 years now. But it keeps back budding. Every now and then I realise something's got too thick and I bring it back down and it back buds. I'd say it's hardier than the local Kunzia ambigua. And it's got this tealy sort of leaf colour, so that's a good one. And this one, I don't know if you guys have heard of Monotoka. It's like they grow around, I suppose they're more in bushland, and they get this black sort of very rough barked, winding sort of trunk. And they can get quite thick. This one's a very small leaf one. And they have these beautiful like white flowers and red berries that are probably that big. So there's a lot of things you could do with that. I saw one at James's house once, but he couldn't remember having it. I'm pretty sure it was at James's house. But yeah, they can grow quite quickly in a big pot.
So what was that one again?
Monotoka.
Monotoka.
They're growing in your area, around Coogee and all that. So I would recommend people go like to the national park and sort of look at plants, maybe take photos.
Seal them?
Especially not national park.
Okay.
Neighbours garden.
Borrow with them. Yeah, that's better.
I'll borrow them and give them back.
Yeah. Also, when I'm working, I don't steal many trees. Yeah, it can be a good.
You just give them good homes, right?
That's right. Yeah. Sometimes you've got to cut and paint them, like kill them. So I just take them. Spend an extra hour after work taking them home.
So with most of these sort of flowering, do they flower around the same time, or like what time of year do they typically flower?
Some of them flower in autumn, some of them flower in spring. I think this one starts to flower at the end of winter. So, and same as the calliotres. So I guess if you learn like the genuses and their sort of, I don't know, how they deal with the weather when they shoot out new growth, or it could be different in different areas. Like I work on a golf course and one of these has just started flowering now, which is quite weird. So it's, it's a survival thing. Who knows? Has anyone got any questions? Alright, cool.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks, sir.
Chris, okay.
Well, I've got one tree up here which is Melaleuca. And I don't know, I quite, with this sort of leaf structure of the Melaleuca, I like having them like flat on the top. I can't remember where I even got this tree from. I think it was a nursery stock somewhere. Bent it up a bit, kept taking the branches off until it got up here, just brought it out, tried to develop pads to give it a little bit of interest. And I reckon they're one worth having a go at. Pretty tough. It grows in a little tray of water. They do like a drink. They don't mind their roots get a bit wet. And they just make a nice little tree. These I call the tall timber tool, because this is the last time I'll come out with my back won't take it anymore. Just about all of these were going from tube stock. I'm pretty sure that came from up Nelson Bay way, and there's been a constant fight for about 25 years or thereabouts. That one up there, the furthest one, the person at the show was a horticulturist. He identified it as swamp mahogany. In its natural habitat, that'll get to 40 metres. That's a big tree. So even though that's a big tree, it is relatively, as a bonsai, it's relatively small. That just does its own thing. This grew out all, like that structure there came out here. And I thought, oh, I'll cut the two main leads off, then I'll get, growth out here. which will make it, you know, more compact because it was getting too big. And the tree said,
I've got ideas.
and dropped the whole trunk off completely. Then it came back as suckers like on this thing, back here, and that's how it's developed from there. But the same thing happened. It went up into two trunks. And I thought, you know, it's only an idiot who does the same thing and expects a different result. But then again, I'm an idiot. So I cut it off again, there and there. And this time it did the right thing. It sprouted out all over the place. These branches have got to be prioritised and sorted out as they thicken up and get a bit stronger. Don't start bending these too early, you'll snap them off. They haven't got the same adhesion to the trunk as, you know, like if they're sucker type thing. But I think it's starting to look pretty impressive. And this was a great big knob out here like that, which I hacked off, and now it's gradually working its way and it'll cover over completely. The back of this tree was completely bare. I don't know what happened there. It was a strip about that big, was bare right through the bark onto the, you know, dead wood inside. And over the years it's fixed itself up. So in a couple of years that'll all be gone. And then we'll probably find somewhere else to cut it. But it does what it wants.
Would you ever burn it, like in the hollow, like plucking it out?
I gouged it out with a gouge, but
What time?
well, I don't want to discourage this sort of callousing.
Yeah, okay.
If I burn it, I might discourage the callousing. You could give it a go. Remember when it was first done, that was the wound, it was that big. Now it's working its way down, and in a while, a couple of years, that'll be gone. But it's got a magnificent trunk on it. Repot every 10 years or so. That went about 10 years without repotting. It's been repotted a couple of years ago, but it's 2 years, maybe less. Into the same pot. When I pulled it out, it had a little root ball like that sitting underneath it. It's on an impermeable thing, so I didn't put out any roots. Everything you see there is all you got, and I didn't put any roots anywhere else. And I find that's fairly typical of the gums. These are interesting leaves, but lovely colour, but they're never going to get thick and they're never going to get small. So I don't know what to do about this. Probably just leave it. I can cut it back. As long as you cut it back and leave a leaf there, it'll come back again, and maybe it'll ramify. But I just let it go. It's happy. The feature of this is the bark. You've got to be very careful when you move it, otherwise you knock the bark off, and that's probably my saving grace. But again, it survives quite happily. That's quite firm in that pot, and you know there won't be any roots underneath. It's just all in the pot. This thing was similar to that, except this is what I did to that, but it didn't require a second go. And all this growth is probably 6 months. It really came back like crazy. They're going everywhere, and when I cut it back, I thought, I didn't cut it back far enough, and that's typical of me. I wanted to keep this little bend, and I wanted to keep that. Really, I should have cut this probably back to there, and maybe this one back to there. And the same thing probably would have happened. But we'll go, just let these grow a little bit longer and see how they're all distributed, and then we'll start plucking them out.
Chris, can you still cut it the original way you want to cut now? I mean, you say you should cut it that length?
Yeah, where I cut it there,
Yeah.
in hindsight, I should have cut it there.
But can you still do it and
Sure.
still alive?
Sure.
Okay.
But I'm not going to. Yeah, I could. And if I get annoyed with it, I will. What happens, I procrastinate for a long time, then one day I'll just wake up and say, I'm going to get out there and I'll have the saw on the end and that it. Then, if the tree's not doing what you want, why sort of have it? Push it to do what you want. If it dies, well. But force it to do what you want. Otherwise, these things take over. They just do whatever they want. Eucalypts, they've got a mind of their own. You don't know what they're going to do. So you just keep experimenting with them until they do what you want. But there's no guarantee if I started playing with these that it wouldn't drop them off anyhow. They're quite temperamental. I'm experimenting with weights on the tree to bring the branch down. Typically, eucalypts are a bit finicky with wire. And I found, I forget which branch I had it on. I had it on one of these branches, I took it off when I came over it, but it actually did start bringing it over. And if it's not bringing it far enough, put a bigger rock. And you want the thing to, they'll tend to go up like that. You want it to come over, like, you know. But if I wired that, I'm not sure it would like it. This is swamp cypress. This was repotted. When did you buy this pot for me, John? How long ago?
January last year.
Yeah. And I had it sitting around for a fair while before I repotted it, but it was in a pot about that big. So it was getting a bit, you know, a bit cramped in there. So I repotted it. And for the first time today, I pulled off the plastic pot it was sitting in, and look at all the mad roots going there. This is typical swamp cypress, that's what they'll do. So if they get their feet in the water, everything will go into it. And you've got to be a bit careful because they'll put everything in and block the hole. Mind you, with swamp cypress, that probably doesn't matter too much because you can't drown them. They'll grow in water anyhow. But it's got a magnificent Navari on it. And back in this time, I remember taking it to Neville one day, we talked about it, and it was straight as a die. So he said, cut it off and use one of the branches as a lead, and that's why we got that movement through there. And you wouldn't know that. That's not the trunk, that's a branch. But it just keeps coming back. This year I put a bit more work into it than I normally do, and from now it'll all drop off. But when it drops off, then I'll cut it back a bit, and off you'll go again. This is pretty much the same story. Again, this came out of its spot on the way over, but it's quite firm, and there's nothing coming out the bottom. Again, all the roots are contained in the pot, and it just sits there and it's quite happy. Again, it's grown in a tray of water. This thing, I quite like this. The boy, it's got a mind of its own. It does whatever it wants. And the trouble is trying to actually contain it. It just keeps growing. Again, it's totally controlled in that pot. It's pretty stuck in there, but I've got no intention of moving it while it's going crazy. But every so often I trim the top and chop it back, and then she goes again. They have about 5 or 6 spurts a year. I'll sit there and won't do very much, and then just suddenly go whoosh, and you cut them back. Then I'll just sit there again and grumble and carry on, and then go whoosh, up they'll go again. And I do that several times a year. Don't feed it anything in particular, just Charlie Carp. And again, now I've put this one in a water pot, just to get the water up to it. One of these other, that's in a water pot. This is in a water pot. That isn't. That isn't. That one is. But with the, I'll never look brilliant because the leaf structure is just, they're too far apart and you can't get them. But I like them. I still like. I could cut this back if I wanted to. I could take it right back to here, or I don't know if I took it back to there and took that back to there, whether that would then drop off. I think it would. But who knows what it'll do, but someday I'll get the shoots with it and just poof.
Chris, does any of these flower?
No.
No,
Never had a flower. Look, but I quite like this fella. Something, I'm assuming they're little larvae of something or other on this thing at the moment. I don't know whether they're good guys or bad guys. But I've also had these with cocoons on them, butterfly cocoons, which are quite nice. But anyhow.
Chris, I got 2 questions. At what size, you say you bought it as a tool stock?
Yep.
At what size you transfer to this pot? After you put it in the ground to grow?
I can remember, particularly that one up there, it just sat in the back. You know, I watered stuff and it was down the back and it got watered. And it grew up a bit, so I just put it in a bit of a bigger pot and just kept watering, and it got too big, so I cut it off and then just kept watering and it popped up again. And so it hasn't actually had work done on it, except in maybe the last 10 years. So it went for quite a while, it was just neglected, just sat down the back and got watered with the rest of the plants. But none of them of these have been in the ground. They've all been in pots, and that would be as big as a pot as it's ever been in. That one's its biggest pots it's ever been in, but that's only been, what we said, without a 12 months.
Yeah.
But I didn't put it in a pot when you go to, it was some months after. Also, this pot looks nice and spiffy. One of the tricks for the show is you just get some olive oil, particularly these forestry pots. You know, those all crud off, and just wipe it with olive oil. And it gives it that nice luster, and it takes a certain amount of the stains off and all that sort of stuff, and it makes it look quite presentable. So if you want to show your tree and you've got a home glazed pot, just give it a wipe. I presume canola oil or any of those.
Any oil, I use eucalyptus oil, of course.
I have heard people use WD-40.
I
I wouldn't be getting that on the tree, I wouldn't let it on the soil. But
WD-40 is only fish oil. It shouldn't hurt the tree.
I recommend if you're going to show, it makes a real difference because there's good points in the show for the pot. So, okay.
The second question is, if it's in the wild, I think a small gum tree, if I dig it up, what's the chance of it still survive?
Well, like anyone, if you take a lot of root with it, probably not too bad.
You're going to keep it very flat.
Bizarrely, I think I'd be looking for when it was on a growth spurt. So when it's growing vigorously, then pull it out. But obviously, the more root you take with it, the more chance you got.
Don't let the roots dry out, otherwise
Yeah.
it'll will almost instantly.
These things are, you think of gum trees as being, they grow on concrete. Yeah, not really. These will be the first trees to wilt on a hot day. They are very water intensive. This fella doesn't need a pot, but the rest of them, like I said, that one doesn't. They're growing in pots, water pots, because they're growing on a concrete pad, and I haven't had any trouble with them. I have had these wilt when they weren't in a pot. They do like a drink, and if it's a really, really hot day, get out there and give your eucalyptus a drink. The figs are just like, well, who cares? But these things are a bit pinky, and this thing will grow in water. Swamp cycles. In up at Bonsai World, they do grow in water.
Is the water good for bonsai?
Water?
Water, the water. Water tree.
No.
They're relatively short-lived.
Yeah,
So if you're going to put a big effort into a tree, you don't want it to come to its natural life, like 10 years or something, and then most wattles they put in because they grow quick. They put them around road edges, but what they do is they usually plant them with something else. So they put the wattle in, the wattle goes whoosh, and then the other things come through, and then the wattles die. But mind you, wattles very often die with little bugs and things in them.
But they
attack
have their
them.
roots being touched as well.
So rather than inherently die, they usually get a bug in them and the bug kills them. But no, I wouldn't. Oh, look, why not? They grow real quick.
Yeah,
But don't think they're going to grow real long.
do it, but don't commit your life to it. I think there was a really good one in Japan, I think last year. Phenomenal one, but it's probably not around now.
I think wattles vary a lot though. Part of, in nature, they're really susceptible to insect attack, and that tends to be what kills them. Plus they also, because they're what you call an adventurous tree, they're the first things that grow, they get crowded out. If you take them out of that, they will live a lot longer. Like I've seen Hawaii and stuff like that that are 50 years old. Yeah. So if you've got them, but I would rate your chances of taking one out of the wild at pretty close to zero. They hate, like
wattles.
Yeah. They really, they absolutely hate having their roots touched. I had a Hawaii for quite a few years that had been container grown and been root pruned all the time, and it was really tough. Like I could prune the bejesus out of it. What it didn't like was one year I got really clever and I changed my potting mix and my fertiliser regime, and it killed it. But before that, this thing was just growing like crazy. I was repotting it 2 or 3 times a year, and all I did was take it out of its pot. I just was in a pot about that big, vertical pot. I just got my custom bonsai carving knife, round the outside, third off the bottom, back in a pot. And if I did that early in the year, sometime in the next sort of 4 months, it would be bursting out of the pot, and I'd do the same thing again. It actually broke the first pot that I put it into.
Okay, Brian?
On Casuarina, basically, when I was down in Narooma, I noticed that the Casuarinas grow kind of like right on the ocean edge, and they get really gnarly, and they tend to have like leaves just at the very top, and they're sculpted by the wind. So they grow, you know, on the cliff face, they'll grow up, and they'll be windswept and that. So when I was down there last time, I stopped at Mogo Nursery and picked up 5 or so of Casuarinas, and wanted to use them in a forest planting to kind of depict the way that they grow in Narooma and that. And so I will eventually plant them kind of up a ledge. And so I'm trying to get a forest planting. What I've done is, because they tend to grow, I'm trying to actually layer them. And so what I've done is put small pots at the top, wired them around, and then I have they're growing up from a base at the bottom here. And the idea is eventually I'll just cut them off below and have 2 for each is hopefully how it'll work, if it works. And then, you know, twice as many trees, and we'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm experimenting with. You often see Casuarinas growing around here. They'll grow through cracks, and they tend to sucker and everything. So I think they will be very hardy in that, I'm expecting. And so I guess.
Do you know what species they are?
No, I know there are a couple that, and this one I think have the bigger internose, which is probably not the one I should have got, but these are the ones that grow down south, and so that was what I was going with.
There's lots of different species.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's Equisitifolia, or folia, sorry. Forgive my pronunciation. That grows. It grows in Australia, but it's native throughout the region. And in places like Indonesia and stuff like that, they've got some really magnificent examples of it. But things, your forest sheoaks, your forest casuarinas, I don't think work very well. They're too upright. The other thing that's interesting too is that they aren't needles, what you see there. They're little branchlets. So if you want to reduce the foliage on a casuarina, you can actually just break it apart, because that's not, the leaves are actually microscopic. So you can actually break those off, and it's not the same as cutting a pine needle in half. So you can actually reduce it that way.
I think there's a couple of good podcasts that talk about casuarinas. They're a very unique plant. If anyone's interested, and I can find that for them. Is there anyone else who wants to go through what? Lee, go for it.
You saw this a number of months ago as a weeping style, and I wanted it as a windswept, but it was started to grow and it came down. It was actually 50 centimeters long before I trimmed it back to 40. But what happened, and this is when you've got to change your mind as your tree grows, it was really lovely when it was young and fresh and nubile, as it were. Then the branches stiffened and it just looked like, it lost that freedom of movement. So I put it on the bench yesterday, cut the whole thing back, wired it up, and I've actually cracked one branch, but I put the sealant on it and micropore tape and the wire, and it hasn't affected the tree at all. In order to handle this style, it needs to thicken up at least twice as much, but it's a Kunzia and it'll grow quickly. And I'm not quite sure yet how I'll develop foliage pads. It's a work in progress, but I think it's an interesting start. And it's in a pot that suits it beautifully, perfect glaze for it, but it's big, because when I potted the tree, it had originally been on that angle, and I'm potting it, sorry, it was on that angle, I'm potting it at that angle, so I potted a deeper pot in order to cover all the roots. In springtime, when I repot it, I could put it in a lower pot. But this is how a tree can completely change its styling in just an hour.
I think if anyone recognises that tree, I think in the last 12 months it's third styling.
Could be.
Yeah. So, but no, don't be rigid with how the tree grows. I think about possibilities.
Yeah.
Experimenting with natives for a while, I actually found this one growing in a rock. It was a lot smaller. It's about 4 or 5 years old. It was really just a shoot growing out of the rock, so I thought I'd give it a go. So I went back with a plastic bag and some water and carefully got it out. It was probably the easiest Yamadori I've ever collected. It was only quite tiny. It's really, it's very easy to grow. And in fact, if anything, it grows too much. It's called a weeping bottle brush. And I was very interested in what Lee was saying, because I like to think of what it's going to do is grow with foliage growing out and down. But I've been trying to get the structure right so far. But I cut this back hard about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and already it's got green tips. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be easy to style. The shoots do grow quite long. I haven't tested how long they do grow, but I'm hoping that it will shower down like perhaps a small weeping willow or something.
Did you bring that in just after you collected it?
Maybe.
I have a vague memory that you brought this time.
I don't remember having brought it in before, but I could have.
I think you're going to have trouble with the weeping bottom brush. They weep, like they're very large trees, and they weep right at the end. I think if you want to get that weeping character, you're going to have to grow some branches out and dry them, because it's not going to naturally weep at that size.
Yeah. I'm doing as much experimenting as I can with
I saw Robert Stevens do one. The Indonesian guy, and he was doing one in a show in Indonesia. That's what he did. His was bigger, but he did that. He just wired all the branches down, and it looked really good.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, as I say, I've been trying to retain and get the structure right before I let it start to grow. It sort of fits a root over rock. The roots grow very easily.
Is that Is that the rock that it was originally grown?
No.
It's just like that.
I'd have needed a huge crane to get it into. No,
Jackhammer.
it's not ideal rock, it's not sandstone, and it's not as poor as it probably should be. It was a nice shape to go with the thing, so I'm persevering. The moss grows good on the rock, so that's a start. Anyway, that's that one. Still in a training pot, so see what it's like in a couple of years' time.
Anyone else? Okay. Mike, I was going to say, okay.
Firstly, Brian, I just got back from the Rima. Those casuarinas are amazing. Along the river and sort of around the rock walls. Yeah, they're cool. This is a wattle. There you go.
Oh, okay.
Queensland silver wattle. And it grows far north New South Wales and Queensland. It grows down here, but it's actually an invasive species down here. I go out to my parents' house out at the Hills District quite a bit down here too. There's quite a few of these where they've cut the roadway, like on the left-hand side, the Winston Hillside, the M2, and they're just growing wild there. Yeah, I probably shouldn't get too attached to it because it is a wattle. I've let it get shaggy because all of these will flower in winter with that classic bright yellow flower. Yeah, tonight's theme was, what was it? Odd or
Unique.
Unique. So it's probably the most unique one I've got. I've got a native, Australian native shirt as well, so I thought I'd bring in something a little odd. I've never seen one as a bonsai before. It's probably not like it sort of has like, it throws out sort of juvenile shoots, so there's a bit of a juxtaposition between the trunk and this, and I've let it grow out. But yeah, I have cut it back. I've had it for about 4 years. You can cut it back quite harsh, and it will shoot back, although this one died off. But yeah, it's probably the most unique one I've got in my collection, so I thought I'd bring it in tonight.
It's really cool.
It's good. It's good.
And usually, glazed pots are sort of, can be contentious for natives, but I think given that it's going to flower yellow, it will look really, really
Yeah.
cool.
And also, and the foliage as well.
It's pretty striking when it flowers. I'll bring it back in when it's flowering, isn't it? It's like it's just covered in yellow flowers.
So did you stop on the side of the highway and dig it up, or?
This one I got from the Central Coast, like off the roadside as well. It was a lot smaller. It grew like, I've only put it in this pot for last year. It wasn't a bigger pot. And I put a bit of shape into it. Like it wired okay. But yeah. Yeah.
You got 8 years left? Or?
Probably.
I reckon, you know, growing them in a pot just takes them out of that natural environment.
Yeah.
I reckon just see.
On Wikipedia it says these ones get to 30 metres per can. They don't like they can. So it can get to a big tree. So it might have a bit of life in it if it gets to that size. It's not a bushy sort of wattle, so you never know.
I don't think we're allowed to pick in the pot. No, thanks, Mike. Alex. Anyone else? James probably won't say anything, but the tree in the middle is called a water gum, which ties the motorcycle and doesn't sort of stay up. Yeah, there you go. Definitely have a look at that. It's a very cool plant and one of my favourites.
You can have it.
I can have it? Other than that, that pretty much wraps up tonight. We will just make sure everyone signs the attendance book. There is a book that will be a lucky door prize, which will raffle off in half an hour or so. The rest of the night it's just workshopping. Feel free to go look at everyone's trees and
The club tree.
oh yeah, and then the club tree on the left-hand side there. Brian is going to work out a price on that, but that is for sale, and everything else on the table there is either for sale or free.
And I don't want to take that eucalypt home.
Okay, so you put this free. All right.
Or
Or donation.
donation to the club.
Yeah, donation to the club. Call it $20 to the club. Yeah, just
Big
on the table over there is free if anyone wants it.
Okay.
The one in the plastic pot.
Alright, it's a free fig in the black plastic pot as well. You know, just put that in. Other than that, any other news? Everyone going to the events and Illawarra show this month. Yep.
People from the training class, if you come up the back, I'll give you one of those pots that we were working on in the class.
All right, everyone. Thanks, and good the rest of your night.
So time to get to these shows. Yeah, I went to the Crimea one. I think it says 9. I was there by 2, and
Are you taking your video?
I didn't see it. There's only 4.
You're very long.
I remember opening one.
You didn't tell them what that is, pygmy possum. I've got one as well. Yeah. Mine's not as big as that. That's so nice. They've got them at Heathcote Native. That's where I got mine.
I don't know who the distributor is, but I've got a.
This is going on. Listen, can you add me to the Facebook page?
Take most of it.
Oh, can you add me too?
On page or
Yeah.
And same as up here, I've got one big strong one going back to that. I wouldn't prefer to be
That has all, because I tried to Google it online and it was just trying to